You know what's crazy? Most of us think we're eating healthy until we actually flip the packet over and read the label. That's where the truth hides. The shiny front of the package says heart healthy, low fat, no sugar, added. But the real story is always at the back, in those tiny letters most people ignore. And trust me, those few lines can make the difference between a strong, healthy heart and one silently heading toward trouble. So if you've ever picked up something thinking, this must be good for me, today we're going to uncover how to truly read food labels for heart safety so you'll never be fooled again. Now, before we dive in, let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually read a food label carefully? I mean, not just the calories or the protein number, but the whole label from top to bottom. If your answer is rarely, don't worry, you're not alone. Most people don't, and that's exactly what the food industry counts on. They know we're busy, we trust their words like natural or light, and we just throw things into our carts. But the truth is, your heart depends on what's behind those words. Let's start with something simple. When you pick up a food item, the first thing you probably notice is the calorie count. But calories alone don't tell you if the food is heart safe. You can have two foods with the same calories, but one will protect your arteries while the other clogs them. What really matters are the ingredients behind those calories, the fats, the sugars, the sodium, the fiber. These are the numbers that quietly shape your heart's future. So here's the trick. Before you even look at the calories, scroll your eyes straight to the ingredient list. This is where the real story begins. Ingredients are always listed in order of quantity, meaning the first one is the main component, the largest part of what you're about to eat. If that first ingredient is something like whole oats, brown rice, or vegetables, you're in safe territory. But if it starts with sugar, enriched flour, or some unpronounceable chemical, that's your red flag. Now, let's talk about sugar, the sneakiest heart enemy of them all. Sugar hides under more than 60 different names. You might see words as like maltose, dextrose, corn syrup, high fructose syrup, cane juice, or fructose, and think they're all different. But your heart doesn't care about the fancy names. It reacts the same way. Too much sugar increases inflammation, raises triglycerides, and contributes to insulin resistance, all of which put extra strain on your heart. Here's a simple rule. If sugar or any of its cousins appear in the first three ingredients, that food isn't heart-friendly. And if you see added sugars on the nutrition label, try to keep it under 25 grams a day for women and 36 grams for men. That's about 6 to 9 teaspoons total. You'd be shocked to know that a single healthy smoothie bottle or flavored yogurt can have more sugar than a can of soda. That's how sneaky labels can be. Now, let's move to fats. Fats are not your enemy, but the type of fat matters a lot. When you read total fat on the label, look below it. You'll see saturated fat and trans fat. These two are the villains for your heart. Saturated fat is found in things like butter, cheese, fatty meats, and some tropical oils like coconut and palm oil. Trans fat, on the other hand, is pure poison for your arteries. It raises bad cholesterol, LDL, and lowers good cholesterol, HDL. Even small amounts over time can lead to serious heart disease. Here's where label reading gets tricky. Sometimes companies write 0 grams trans fat, but still include it. How? Because the FDA allows them to round down if it's less than 0, 5 grams per serving. And when you eat more than one serving, it adds up fast. So how do you catch it? Look at the ingredients list for the words partially hydrogenated oils. If you see that phrase anywhere, that product contains trans fat, no matter what the front of the label says. Now, about saturated fats, while they're not as bad as trans fats, too much can still raise LDL cholesterol. You want to aim for less than 10% of your daily calories from saturated fat. For most people, that's around 20 grams a day. So, when you check the label, compare the saturated fat grams to the total calories. If you see something like 10 grams of saturated fat in a 200-calorie snack, that's a red flag. Next up, sodium. Salt makes food taste amazing, but too much of it is quietly damaging millions of hearts every year. It raises blood pressure, stiffens arteries, and increases your risk of heart attack and stroke. Most processed foods are loaded with sodium, not because they need it for flavor, but because it helps them last longer on the shelf. That's why even sweet foods sometimes have surprising amounts of sodium. When you read a label, look for sodium in milligrams. The American Heart Association recommends keeping your daily sodium intake below 1,500 milliliters for ideal heart health, and definitely not more than 2,300 milliliters. To put that in perspective, just one frozen meal or a single serving of canned soup can easily contain 800 to 1,000 milliliters. So, the best trick is to look for products labeled low sodium, which means less than 140 milliliters per serving. But remember, serving size is the next trap we're going to uncover. The serving size is one of the sneakiest tricks on a label. You'll often see numbers that look fine at first glance, like 150 calories, 5 grams of fat, or 200 milliliters of sodium. But look closely at how many servings are in the package. If it says 2.5 servings per container, that means you have to multiply everything by 2. 5. If you plan to eat the whole thing, and let's be honest, most of us do, that means your 200 milliliters sodium snack actually gives you 500 milliliters or more. So always multiply by the servings to get the real picture. Now, let's talk about fiber, one of your heart's best friends. Fiber helps lower cholesterol, controls blood sugar, and keeps you full, so you're less likely to overeat. When checking labels, look for foods that have at least 3 grams of fiber per serving, ideally more. Whole grains, oats, fruits, and vegetables are naturally rich in fiber. The key word to spot in the ingredient list is whole. Whole wheat, whole oats, whole rye. But be careful. A lot of products say multigrain or wheat bread, but are really made from refined white flour with brown coloring. If the first ingredient doesn't have the word whole, it's not truly whole grain. And here's something interesting. Food companies use marketing words to trick your mind. Light, low fat, sugar-free, organic, heart smart, or made with whole grains. These don't necessarily mean healthy. Light may just mean it has fewer calories than the original, which could still be a lot. Low fat might mean they removed the fat, but added extra sugar or starch to make it taste better. Sugar-free could mean they used artificial sweeteners that can still mess with your metabolism and gut health. So instead of trusting the front, always verify the truth on the back. Let's pause for a second and imagine you're in a grocery store. You pick up a box of granola bars. The front says, high in fiber, heart healthy, and no artificial flavors. Sounds great, right? Now flip it over. You'll probably see sugar or corn syrup as one of the top ingredients, maybe some hydrogenated oil, and a sodium count that's higher than you expected. That's the moment you realize marketing is loud, but numbers never lie. Now, here's a smart way to think about food labels for heart safety. Every number tells a story. Calories tell you how much energy. Total fat tells you density. Saturated and trans fats tell you risk. Sodium tells you stress level. Sugar tells you inflammation. And fiber tells you protection. When you look at all these together, you start to see the pattern, whether that food supports your heart or challenges it. Let's talk about cholesterol next. Many people worry about dietary cholesterol, but here's the nuance. Cholesterol from food doesn't affect everyone's blood cholesterol in the same way. However, when combined with high saturated or trans fat intake, it can still raise your risk. So it's smart to limit foods with more than 200 milliliters of cholesterol per serving, especially if you already have high cholesterol levels or a family history of heart disease. Another sneaky ingredient that affects your heart is refined carbohydrates. These are things like white bread, pastries, sweetened cereals, and chips. Even if they don't have sugar listed as sugar, refined flours behave the same way in your body. They spike insulin and lead to fat buildup in the liver and around your heart. So when reading labels, look for words like enriched flour or refined wheat. These mean the natural fiber and nutrients were stripped out during processing. Choose whole grains instead. Let's not forget preservatives and additives. Ingredients like monosodium glutamate, MSG, sodium nitrate, and artificial colorings are often added to processed foods. While a small amount might not harm you instantly, long-term exposure has been linked to inflammation and high blood pressure, both bad for your heart. The general rule is, if you can't pronounce an ingredient, your body probably won't recognize it either.